boys, bad boys, pretty boys, GQs, lumberjacks, or jackoffs, and especially go for the nice guys who hid their dine and dash tendencies that, in her experience, unmistakably went hand in hand with a certain appendage. She'd seen her two best friends find their person and fall in love, and she was elated for them. But what were the odds of a third unicorn in their tiny state? Sadly, there was a list of dine and dashers throughout her 30-plus years, with her most recent breaking her heart and her bank, making her a 5-time loser when it came to the game of love. But she wouldn't let that rob her of her deep and unwavering affair with all things romance and weddings, which was one of the reasons why she'd started Cake Goddess. The other was to keep the power company happy. Jillian was a special occasions cake designer, whom the Portland Tribune called one of the premier pâtissiers in Portland. She specialized in classic, couture, and edible happily ever after. What had started as a small home business to supplement her income had turned into a cake company that sold decadent desserts all up and down the West Coast. The demand was almost more than her kitchen could handle. Between being a single parent and a momtrepreneur, nights like tonight were a rarity. She loved her son, Sammy, but was desperate for some time to focus on herself. Which was why, last week, after her birthday celebration, Jillian had signed up for Hear Me Roar, a podcast designed to help single women get their groove back, to resuscitate the bold, fun-loving, adventurous side that divorce and dating had annihilated. Tonight's session was titled Get It Girl, where she'd explore a series of resolutions that she'd painstakingly compiled to help bring some much-needed fun back into her life. Between baking and being Sammy's whole world, me time was hard to come by. But since it was his dad's week, Jillian had a whole 7 days to herself, and she knew exactly where she wanted to start. Grabbing a bottle of wine and a glass, and her "Today you are an eagle and your wings are made of awesome" journal, Jillian headed next door to the main house for her skinny-dipping, date-of-one, middle-of-the-night adventure. With 3 years between her and her divorce, this was her way of shedding the past and arising from the water a new woman. Jillian cinched the belt of her white, silky robe with the kissy lips print and walked barefoot from her little cottage, where she and Sammy lived, to the main house she rented out as a vacation destination to help cover the cost of the 2 dwellings and 6 acres of property she'd inherited from her grandmother. Tomorrow she was expecting a tenant who'd rented out the main house for the entire summer. He was a rather famous musician and her best friend's brother-in-law, who needed a quiet place to unwind away from the spotlight. But for tonight, the entire property was hers to enjoy. She walked across the small bridge separating the 2 houses, scattered pine needles and damp soil pressing into her feet. The June air was crisp and still, the sky so clear she could see a billion stars twinkling overhead. There couldn't have been a more perfect setting to begin her journey into a sexy, single, and capable woman who lived life to the fullest. She'd decided to leave the pool and porch lights off. She wasn't that bold, to camouflage her courageous first step from potential peepers. Enjoying the night surrounding her and sipping her glass of wine, she sat on the edge of one of the padded loungers, pulled her small journal and a pen from her pocket, and pressed play on the latest episode. Welcome back. You're listening to Hear Me Roar, a psychological look into the world of dating. And I'm your host, Dr. Claire. The podcast began. Today starts your new journey, and I'm here to tell you that single girl anxiety is real. From check one invitations to the singles table, and well-meaning family members who invite you to dinner, and fail to mention the balding, middle-aged neighbor who works at the button factory and is waiting just for you. You can stop the crazy and take back your life. I know what it's like to be that single girl in a sea of penguins. Being single in the city isn't always easy, but it can be fun. But this isn't only a course in being single.